Oh, hey, you guys. Gabriel here, Archangel, Herald of Heaven, and all-around mensch. I thought I'd use my new vlog to let you know what's been happening up here. I was going to call it the Heavenly Vlog, but that is hog, and that don't sound too good. Oh well, it's a work in progress. So as I was saying, first things first, the big guy went and he did it. He went down there. Sure, I warned him, don't go! Humans are screw-ups. They screwed up before, and they'll do it again. You know humans, they can't help themselves. You know, ever since that day in the garden when humans ate from the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, I mean, come on! It was the only fruit they weren't allowed to eat. The nitwits. You know, come to think about it, if they were smart, they would have eaten from the tree of life first. I mean, at the time, that wasn't off limits, but no. But I digress. Now Lucifer, he was taking bets. That joker was bragging that he could get the ditzy dame to eat the forbidden fruit before anyone could stop him. Big joke, right? Ha ha. The guy always was a weasel. Well, in this case, a snake. Well, sure enough, turns out he was right. And she didn't take much convincing. The next thing you know, she's even given a piece of the fruit to the man. Then, of course, the fruit hits the fan. When the boss finds out, boy, is he steamed. And before you can say bada bing, bada boom, Lucifer is cursed. He's rolling on his tummy. Both the guy and the doll are also cursed and kicked out of the Garden of Eden. And guess who's stuck with guard duty, keeping them from coming back? Well, things go downhill from there. Evil spreads in human hearts like wildfire. Cain kills Abel. Countries war with countries. All in all, it's a disaster. Finally, God has had enough and he decides to wipe out everything in one big flood. And I'm thinking it's about time. But the boss has second thoughts, has compassion for humans yet again, and he finds this guy Noah and tells him, build a big boat so they can start all over again. I'm thinking the boss will never learn. But what can I say? He loves you guys. Then one day we have this big staff meeting and the boss comes up with this idea. Maybe if we could just get a few people, you know, he could groom them to guide them and to stay in his will. So he finds this guy Abram and he sees that he's a pretty stand-up guy. So he sends me to let him in on the plan. I tell him his name is now Abraham, and God will build a nation with his descendants. Believe it or not, he has a hard time believing me. And as I predict, he blows it. But for some reason, the boss sticks with this guy anyway. It's rough going, and there are many, and I mean many bumps in the road, but the boss sticks with them. The big guy is constantly rescuing them, sending prophets and leaders, like Moses. The boss called him to save the Hebrews from Egyptian slavery. Oh gee, all of us had to work extra overtime to back that guy up. And no sooner did they get back to safety than they started to mess up again. Boss even wrote down the rules. No difference. That's pretty much the same story from that point on. The boss sends a prophet to help them out. Sometimes they would listen and prosper, then they would forget and fall into ruin. It's like a roller coaster. One king would listen and prosper, then his son would take over, not listen, and everything falls apart. It's a yo-yo! So here we are again. The Jews have lost their way again. The Roman Empire has conquered them, and they're back into slavery and oppression. And once again, they're whining to the boss for help. And once again, the big guy decides to have pity on them. But this time, he decides to do something different. This time, he wants to go down there himself. Not the way he did with Adam and Eve. He says he wants to truly understand what it is to be human. So, he decides to walk around with them as a human. You know, being born, that sort of thing, having a whole life. So, who's picked to go down there and tell this little girl that she's going to be the most important person in the world? Yours truly. It's my job to tell her, what was her name? Mary, that was it. I had to tell Mary she's going to be the mother of God in human form. Now I'm a little concerned. She's kind of young. But the boss assures me that she's a good kid. She could take it. Okay. Personally, I hope she realizes what she's getting into. It ain't gonna be easy. When I get there, I'm sure she is going to freak. So I begin with the "do not be afraid" spiel. But to my amazement, she seems to be okay with it. So I fill her in on all the details and tell her to name the kid Jesus. Then head back up to base. Now, it's a different story with her parents. When she tells them what happened, they freak. They accuse her of not telling the truth. Even her fiancé, Joseph, doesn't believe her. And he decided to dump her. Well, that was until I set him straight. In this case, I decided to go to him in a dream. It's a lot less frightening, easier to do. So now, we're getting ready for the big day. Mary is very pregnant, and they are conveniently on their way to Bethlehem. The star is almost ready, and we're putting the final touches on the big announcements. So, I figure it's too big a deal to use dreams. So I figure they too will freak. So I believe we should start small, perhaps with just me, and then go into the big production number. Yeah, not sure yet. Thinking about it. One thing's for sure, it's gonna be huge!